The strange thing about life is this: most people spend years trying to become successful, but very few people stop and ask one simple question. What does a meaningful life actually feel like? Not a busy life, not a rich life, not a famous life, but a life that feels peaceful inside. A life that makes you wake up in the morning with energy instead of stress. A life that still feels worth living even when nobody is watching. This is why the idea of Ikigai is so powerful, because it does not begin with money. It begins with meaning. And in today's world that is becoming more rare every year, people are connected to thousands of others online but disconnected from themselves. They scroll for hours but still feel empty. They chase productivity but forget joy. They work harder and harder but feel more tired inside, and slowly they begin to lose something invisible. Their reason for waking up in Japan: there is a belief that every person has an ikigai, a reason for being. Sometimes it is something big. Sometimes it is something very small. For one person, it may be teaching children. For another, it may be growing flowers for someone else. It may simply be making tea for the people they love every morning. The beauty of Ikigai is that it does not judge your purpose. It only asks one thing: does this give your life meaning? There is a small village in Okinawa where many people live past 100 years old. Researchers from around the world visited this place because they wanted to understand the secret. Why were these people living so long? Why were they smiling so often? Why did they still seem full of life even in old age? And the answer surprised everyone. It was not expensive medicine. It was not luxury. It was not some magical diet. It was the way they lived every single day. The people there had routines filled with purpose. Even at 90 years old, many still woke up early. They watered plants, cooked meals, walked slowly through the streets, met friends for tea, worked with their hands, shared stories, laughed often, and most importantly, they still felt needed. That feeling changes everything, because human beings are not designed to only survive. We need purpose the same way plants need sunlight. Without purpose, the soul slowly becomes tired. And maybe you have felt this before. Maybe there were moments when your life looked normal from the outside, but inside something felt missing. You kept going, you kept working, you kept smiling, but deep down you felt disconnected from yourself. That feeling is more common than people admit. Many people wake up already exhausted, not because their body is weak, but because their spirit is tired. They are living without connection to what truly matters to them. And this is where Ikigai begins. Not with a perfect plan, but with honesty. The honesty to ask yourself questions most people avoid. What truly makes me feel alive? What kind of life feels natural to me? What moments make me forget time? What kind of work gives me energy instead of stealing it? These questions sound simple, but they can completely change a person's life. Because most people are taught how to earn money, very few are taught how to build a meaningful existence. A man named Hiroshi once explained this beautifully. For almost 30 years, he worked in a large office in Tokyo. Every morning, he wore the same black suit, took the same crowded train, sat at the same desk, and every evening he returned home feeling empty. His salary was good. People respected him, but inside he felt lost. One day after work, he walked into a small bookstore to escape the rain. In the corner of the shop, he found an old photography magazine. As he turned the pages, something strange happened. For the first time in years, he felt awake. The pictures made him feel calm, curious, alive. That night, he could not stop thinking about it. So the next weekend, he borrowed a small camera. Then he started walking through quiet streets, taking photos of ordinary life. An old woman watering flowers, a child eating noodles, morning sunlight on empty roads. Nothing famous, nothing dramatic. But every time he held the camera, he felt peace. Years later, he left his office job, not to become rich, not to become famous, but because he finally understood something important. A meaningful life is built from moments that make your soul feel present today. Hiroshi teaches photography to young students. He earns less money than before, but he smiles more, sleeps better, feels lighter, because now his life has direction. This is something many people misunderstand. Ikigai is not about escaping hard work. It is about finding work that feels meaningful. Even difficult days become easier when your heart is connected to what you do. And that connection changes the way you experience time itself. When people live without purpose, days feel heavy. But when people live with meaning, even simple moments become beautiful. A morning walk feels peaceful. Cooking becomes relaxing. Conversations feel deeper. Work feels alive. You stop waiting for weekends to feel happiness because life itself begins to feel worth living. And maybe this is the real secret hidden inside Ikigai. Not becoming perfect. Not becoming successful in the eyes of strangers. But building a life where your mind, heart, and daily actions move together in harmony. Because when those things finally connect, something inside you becomes quiet, not empty. Peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, you stop feeling lost. Most people think purpose arrives like lightning. One sudden moment, one perfect idea, one dramatic discovery that changes everything overnight. But real purpose rarely appears that way. Most of the time it arrives slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. It begins with small feelings, small moments, small signs your heart keeps trying to show you. The problem is that modern life is loud. People are constantly distracted. Phones vibrate, screens glow all night. Everyone is rushing somewhere. And in all that noise, it becomes difficult to hear yourself clearly. That's why many people feel disconnected from their own lives. Not because they are broken, but because they have forgotten how to listen inwardly. In Japan, there is a deep respect for simplicity. Not empty simplicity, meaningful simplicity. The idea that life does not need to be complicated to be beautiful. A simple meal shared with family. A quiet walk in the morning. Fresh tea on a rainy afternoon. Working carefully with your hands. Sitting peacefully without needing constant stimulation. These moments may look small from the outside, but inside them there is calmness. And calmness allows people to reconnect with themselves. This is one reason many people never discover their ikigai. They are always busy chasing bigger things, bigger income, bigger status, bigger attention. But sometimes purpose is hiding inside ordinary life, waiting patiently to be noticed. There was a woman named Emmy who lived in a tiny apartment in Osaka. For years, she worked long hours in customer service. Every day felt the same. Wake up early, rush through trains, smile at strangers, return home exhausted. At night, she often stared at the ceiling, asking herself one question. Is this really my life? One evening during winter, there was a power outage in her building. Her phone battery died. The internet stopped working. For the first time in months, the apartment became completely silent. So she lit a candle, opened an old notebook, and began writing thoughts she had ignored for years. Memories from childhood dreams she once had. Things she secretly loved as she wrote, she realized something surprising. The happiest moments of her life were not connected to achievement. They were connected to helping people feel understood. As a teenager, she loved listening to friends during difficult times. She loved writing letters, encouraging others, making people feel less alone. That night changed her life. Not instantly, but slowly. She began studying counseling after work, then volunteering at a support center on weekends. Years later, she became a mental health guide for young women struggling with anxiety. And for the first time in her life, she no longer felt empty because she was no longer living only for survival. She was living with meaning. This is important to understand. Ikigai is often hidden beneath layers of fear and routine. People become so focused on responsibilities that they forget what naturally brings them joy. And over time, they stop believing their joy even matters. But it does matter deeply because joy is not laziness. Joy is information. It shows you where your spirit feels alive. That does not mean every passion becomes a career overnight. Sometimes your ikigai grows slowly beside your normal life. A teacher who paints at night, a father who loves gardening, a student who writes stories in secret, a nurse who finds peace through music. These small acts are not meaningless hobbies. They are clues. Clues pointing toward a more connected life. One of the most beautiful ideas inside Ikigai is this. Purpose is not something you invent. It is something you uncover, like a sculpture hidden inside stone. Your real self already exists underneath fear, expectations, and noise. The journey is learning how to return to it. And that journey requires courage because sometimes discovering your true self means admitting you have been unhappy for a long time. It means facing uncomfortable truths. Maybe the life you built does not truly fit who you are anymore. Maybe you became the version of yourself others expected, but not the version your heart needed. This realization can feel painful, but it can also become the beginning of freedom. A man named Daniel experienced this during a business trip to Okinawa. He was successful by every normal standard. Expensive car, luxury apartment, important job title, but inside he felt emotionally exhausted. One afternoon, he visited a small local cafe near the ocean. An elderly man served him tea with slow, careful movements. Nothing felt rushed. The old man smiled gently and asked him a simple question. Are you enjoying your life? Daniel laughed awkwardly and answered the way most people do. I am busy. The old man nodded quietly. Then he said something Daniel never forgot. Being busy and being alive are not the same thing. That sentence stayed in his mind for years because deep down he knew it was true. Many people are surviving schedules but not truly living their lives. And this is where Ikigai becomes powerful. It reminds us that life is not only about reaching goals. It is about experiencing meaning while moving toward them. It is about waking up with a reason to participate in life, not just endure it. The people of Okinawa understand this deeply. Even in old age, they continue creating, teaching, cooking, gardening, dancing, laughing, sharing stories. Not because they are forced to, but because purpose keeps the spirit awake. And science now supports this idea. Studies show that people who feel connected to purpose often experience lower stress, better health, and longer lives. Their minds stay active, their hearts stay engaged, their days feel valuable. Purpose gives structure to human existence. Without it, people often drift into emptiness. This is why so many people feel strangely tired even when they rest all day. Because the human soul does not heal through endless distraction. It heals through meaning. And perhaps this is the quiet truth many people spend years searching for. A beautiful life is not created by escaping difficulties. It is created by finding something meaningful enough to make difficulties worth carrying. When a person discovers that everything changes, even ordinary mornings begin to feel different. The sunlight feels softer, food tastes richer, conversations matter more. Life slows down just enough for the heart to finally breathe. And little by little, the person who once felt lost begins finding their way back to themselves. But finding your way back to yourself is not always easy, because the world teaches people to ignore their inner voice. From childhood, many people are told what success should look like: get a good job, earn more money, buy better things, look impressive, stay busy, do not fall behind, and slowly people begin to confuse success with approval. They stop asking what feels meaningful and start asking, what will make others respect them? This is how many people lose themselves without even noticing. They become responsible but unhappy, comfortable but empty, respected but disconnected. And then one day they wake up and realize something painful I built a life, but I do not feel alive inside it. This moment can feel frightening, but it can also be a doorway, because the moment you notice that something is missing, you are already beginning to wake up. Ikigai does not ask you to destroy your life and run away. It asks you to look honestly at your life and bring meaning back into it, step by step, day by day, one small choice at a time. There is a quiet power in small choices. A person does not become new in one morning. A person becomes new through repeated actions. A few minutes of reading, a walk after dinner, a phone call to someone lonely, a small act of kindness, a hobby practiced in silence, a dream touched for 10 minutes before sleep. These small things may not look important from outside, but inside they begin to rebuild the soul, because purpose grows when you give it attention, just like a plant grows when you give it water. A woman named Sophia understood this later in life. She was 42 years old and lived in a busy city. For many years, she worked in a bank. Her life was stable, her family was proud, her bills were paid. But every evening when she came home, she felt emotionally tired, not only from work, but from pretending she was happy. As a child, she had loved drawing. She used to draw faces, houses, trees, small scenes from daily life. But when she grew older, people told her art was not practical. So she stopped. She became serious, responsible professional, and slowly the colorful part of her heart became quiet. One afternoon, while cleaning her closet, she found an old sketchbook. The pages were yellow, the drawings were simple, but when she touched them, she felt something she had not felt in years: a soft sadness and a soft joy. That night, she bought a small pencil set. Nothing expensive, nothing special. She told herself she would draw for only 10 minutes. But 10 minutes became 1 hour. And for the first time in a long time, she forgot her stress. She forgot her phone. She forgot the pressure of being perfect. She felt present. She felt young again. She felt herself returning. At first, she did not quit her job. She did not make a big announcement. She simply drew every night. Then she shared one drawing online. Then another. Then people began asking her to make simple family portraits. Slowly, she started earning from something she loved. Years later, she did not describe her journey as a sudden miracle. She described it as a quiet return. That is how Ikigai often begins. Not with a loud change, but with a quiet return. A return to what makes you feel real. A return to what gives energy instead of taking it. A return to what brings peace to your mind. This is why the first question of Ikigai is so important. What do you love? Not what looks impressive, not what your friends are doing, not what your family expects, not what social media celebrates. What do you love? This question can feel difficult because many people have been disconnected from joy for too long, so do not answer too quickly. Sit with it. Notice your body, notice your energy, notice when your mind becomes calm, notice when your heart becomes lighter. Sometimes love is not loud excitement. Sometimes love is quiet peace. You may love helping children learn. You may love cooking simple food. You may love repairing things. You may love organizing spaces. You may love listening to people. You may love walking alone and thinking deeply. You may love teaching, writing, building, cleaning, designing, planting, speaking, serving. Creating your ikigai may be hidden in something you already do naturally, but because it feels easy to you, you may not value it enough. Many people ignore their gift because it does not feel special to them. A calm person does not realize how powerful calmness is. A patient person does not realize how rare patience is. A good listener does not realize how deeply people need to be heard. A creative person does not realize how much beauty they bring into the world. Sometimes your gift feels ordinary to you because you have carried it for so long, but to someone else, it may be life-changing. This leads to the second question. What are you good at? This question is not about ego, it is about awareness. Every person has some natural strength. Some people understand emotions. Some explain ideas clearly. Some work well with numbers. Some solve problems. Some bring people together. Some make others laugh. Some notice details. Others miss. Some create beauty with their hands. Some stay strong during pressure. Some bring peace into stressful places. Your skill does not need to be famous, it only needs to be real. And sometimes the best way to find it is to listen to what people often thank you for. When do people say, "You helped me"? You explained that so well. You made me feel better. You are good at this. You always notice things. You make difficult things feel simple. These small compliments are clues. Do not ignore them. They may be pointing towards something meaningful, but Ikigai is not only about what you love and what you are good at, because a life built only around personal happiness can still feel incomplete. The heart also needs service. It needs to feel connected to something beyond itself. That is why the third question matters. What does the world need? This does not mean you must save the whole world. That pressure is too heavy. It means asking a simpler question. Who can I help with? What I have? Maybe the world needs your kindness. Maybe your family needs your patience. Maybe your community needs your skill. Maybe one person needs your words today. Maybe a child needs your teaching. Maybe an older person needs your time. Maybe someone online needs your story because they feel alone. Service gives purpose depth. When your gift becomes useful to others, your life begins to feel bigger than your problems. You stop living only inside your own worries. You begin to feel part of something human, something shared, something beautiful. Then comes the fourth question. What can you be paid for? Some people feel uncomfortable with this question. They think purpose should not involve money. But Ikigai is not about becoming greedy. It is about becoming stable. Because if your purpose cannot support your life at all, you may burn out. You may become stressed. You may stop doing the thing you love. Money is not the soul of Ikigai, but money can help protect it. A teacher still needs food. An artist still needs rent. A helper still needs rest. A creator still needs tools. A meaningful life also needs structure. So the question is not, how can I become rich from this? The better question is, how can this gift support my life in a healthy way? Maybe you begin small. a weekend class, a small online service, a few handmade products, a simple video channel, a local workshop, a part-time project, a quiet side business. The size does not matter in the beginning. What matters is movement because purpose becomes clearer through action, not endless thinking. Many people spend years waiting to feel ready, but readiness often comes after you begin, not before you take one step. Then life gives you feedback. You learn, you adjust, you try again, and slowly the path becomes clearer. This is the gentle way of Ikigai. Not pressure, not panic, not forcing yourself to become someone else, but listening carefully, acting slowly and building a life that feels more honest every day. When the four questions begin to meet, what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what can support your life, something powerful happens inside you. You no longer feel pulled in many directions. Your energy becomes focused. Your days begin to feel connected. Your choices become clearer. You stop copying other people's dreams and begin respecting your own path. And even if the path is slow, even if the world does not notice, even if progress feels small, you feel something that many people are searching for. You feel aligned. You feel that your life is not random. You feel that your existence has meaning. And that feeling can give a person strength that no outside success can replace. There comes a moment in every human life when the noise finally becomes too heavy. The pressure, the rushing, the endless need to prove something. And deep inside, a quiet voice begins asking, what kind of life do I really want to live? Not the life people expect. Not the life designed by fear. Not the life built only around survival, but a life that feels honest. A life that feels peaceful when the day ends. Because at the end of everything, that is what most people are truly searching for. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from escaping problems, but the kind that comes from knowing your life means something. The kind that allows you to sit quietly at night without feeling empty inside. And this is why Ikigai matters so deeply, because it reminds people of something the modern world keeps making them forget. Your life is not supposed to feel meaningless. You were not born only to wake up tired, rush through days, carry stress, and slowly disappear into routine. You were born with something inside you that wants expression, something alive, something real, something that quietly whispers, there is more to life than this. The beautiful thing is that your Ikigai does not need to look impressive to anyone else. It does not need millions of followers. It does not need luxury. It does not need applause. Sometimes purpose looks very ordinary from outside. An old man growing vegetables every morning, a mother teaching her child with patience, a barber listening carefully to lonely customers, a teacher staying late to help one struggling student, a baker waking before sunrise to make fresh bread, a nurse holding someone's hand during fear, a young artist creating quietly in a tiny room. These moments may never become famous, but they are deeply human. And often the most meaningful lives are built from these small acts repeated with love. The world today teaches people to chase attention, but attention and meaning are not the same thing. Some people become famous yet still feel empty. Some become wealthy yet still feel lost. Because no amount of success can replace connection to yourself. This is why so many people keep searching even after achieving their goals. Because the heart wants something deeper than achievement. It wants alignment. It wants to feel that your daily life reflects who you truly are. And maybe that is the real tragedy of modern life. Not that people fail, but that many succeed at lives that do not actually fulfill them. They spend years climbing mountains they never truly wanted to climb. And by the time they reach the top, they feel exhausted instead of happy. Ikigai asks you to stop for a moment, to breathe, to listen carefully, and to ask yourself a different kind of question. Not what will impress people, but what kind of life will let me feel alive? That question changes everything because once a person begins living honestly, even small things become meaningful again. Morning light through a window, the smell of tea music while cleaning the house, a conversation with someone you love, rain against the glass, working carefully with your hands, walking slowly without rushing somewhere. Life becomes softer, richer, more present. Not because problems disappear, but because your heart is no longer disconnected from your days. There is an old Japanese idea that says, a person who has a reason to live can endure almost anything. And history has shown this again and again. Human beings are stronger than they realize when their life carries meaning. Purpose gives people energy during difficult times. It gives courage during uncertainty. It gives hope when life becomes painful. Without purpose, suffering feels unbearable, but with purpose, even hardship can become part of a meaningful journey. This does not mean life becomes perfect. Even people living with Ikigai still experience sadness, loss, failure, loneliness, fear. But purpose changes the way people carry those experiences. Instead of feeling completely broken by life, they remain connected to something deeper, something steady inside them. And this inner connection is often what keeps people emotionally alive. A woman named Noriko once explained this in a simple way. She was 94 years old when someone asked her why she still smiled so much. She laughed softly and answered, "Because every morning my flowers still need water." Such a small sentence, but hidden inside it was wisdom. She still felt needed. She still had something to care for. She still had a reason to wake up. And perhaps purpose is often simpler than people think. Maybe purpose is not one giant mission waiting far away in the future. Maybe purpose is found in caring deeply about something today. A person, a craft, a dream, a garden, a family, a community, a piece of art, a story, a lesson, a moment. Purpose grows through care. Whatever you continue caring about begins shaping your life. That is why your attention matters. Your habits matter. Your daily choices matter because little by little they become your identity. A meaningful life is rarely built in dramatic moments. It is built quietly in ordinary mornings. Ordinary decisions, ordinary acts repeated with love and awareness. That is how beautiful lives are formed. Slowly, patiently, naturally. This is also why comparison is so dangerous. The modern world constantly pushes people to compare themselves. Someone is richer, more successful, more attractive, more famous, more accomplished. And comparison slowly steals joy from people who were already enough. Ikigai teaches a completely different way to live. Your path is your path. Your timing is your timing. Your purpose does not need to look like anybody else's. A tree does not hate itself because it is not a river. A river does not feel ashamed because it is not a mountain. Everything in nature has its own way of existing. Human beings forget this. They try to become copies of one another. And in doing so, many lose connection to their true nature. But the people who seem most peaceful in life are often the people who stop trying to become someone else. They accepted themselves, their strengths, their limitations, their personality, their pace, their way of moving through the world. And from that acceptance came freedom. Maybe that freedom is what so many people are truly searching for. Not freedom from work, but freedom from pretending. Freedom from chasing approval. Freedom from living disconnected from their real self. The journey toward Ikigai is really a journey back home, back to who you were before. Fear took control, before society told you what mattered, before exhaustion disconnected you from joy. And the beautiful thing is this: it is never too late to begin again, never too late to reconnect with meaning, never too late to try something small, never too late to listen to your heart more honestly. There are people who discover purpose at 60, at 70, at 80. Because purpose is not about age, it is about aliveness. As long as you are breathing, life is still offering you moments to participate fully. One of the saddest things in the world is not dying. It is reaching the end of life without ever truly feeling alive, without ever allowing yourself to become who you really were, without ever slowing down enough to hear your own spirit. That is why this moment matters. Maybe while listening to these words, something inside you has already begun waking up. Maybe you remembered a forgotten dream. Maybe you realized how tired you truly are. Maybe you felt hope for the first time in a long time. Maybe a quiet part of your heart whispered, I want to live differently. If that feeling exists inside you, do not ignore it. Protect it. Because small feelings become big transformations when they are respected. You do not need to change your entire life tomorrow. You do not need perfect answers tonight. You only need honesty. One honest step. One honest moment. One honest choice repeated again and again. That is enough to begin changing the direction of a human life. Maybe tomorrow you wake up 10 minutes earlier and walk outside quietly. Maybe you finally start writing again. Maybe you cook slowly instead of rushing. Maybe you call someone you miss. Maybe you spend less time scrolling and more time listening to yourself. Maybe you begin learning something that excites you. Maybe you finally admit what your heart has been trying to say for years. Small beginnings are still beginnings. Never forget that. The people living beautiful, meaningful lives are not always extraordinary people. Often they are ordinary people who learned how to live with presence, with gratitude, with purpose, with connection, and perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside Ikigai. A meaningful life is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you practice daily, through awareness, through care, through the way you choose to spend your time and energy. Every morning, life quietly asks you a question. What will you give your attention to today? And your answer slowly becomes your future. So maybe the real purpose of life is not becoming perfect. Maybe it is becoming present. Present enough to notice beauty again. Present enough to feel gratitude again. Present enough to love your life while you are living it. Not someday, not after success, not after approval. Now, because one day your life will simply become memories. Morning conversations, late night thoughts, laughter, music, faces, rainstorms, meals, quiet walks, tiny moments that once felt ordinary. And in the end, people rarely wish they had worked more. Most wish they had lived more honestly, loved more deeply, smiled more freely, and spent more time doing what truly mattered to them. So, wherever you are right now, whether you feel lost, tired, confused, hopeful, or somewhere in between, remember this: your life still has meaning. Your story is not finished. There is still something inside you waiting to be expressed: a gift, a kindness, a dream, a purpose, a reason to wake up tomorrow morning with a little more light inside your heart. And maybe that reason, quietly, patiently, beautifully, is already waiting for you to notice it. That is the heart of Ikigai,